Hey, welcome to the Broken for Better podcast.
We're a nonprofit organization with the purpose of equipping your marriage and strengthening your family so that your tomorrow can be better than your today.
Enjoy the episode.
Welcome back to the Broken for Better podcast. We are truly excited this week.
Yes.
We have a great couple, friends, dear friends of ours that we get to spend some time with. Our topic today is balancing life as a young couple with a new child.
Right.
So balancing life as a young couple with a new child. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Kat and Michell Bonsignore. Come on, welcome. We're excited. Y'all still got the vibe. You know, you'll always rock the vibe, looking the same. I love it. You know what I mean? It's like an Amazon special, you know what I mean? But I love that you're known for that. You know what I mean? Like, always have been, always will be. And so truly is an honor and a privilege to have you. So that being the topic, okay? Y'all been married. Tell us a little bit of that story. How long you been married? How many kids you got? Kind of give us the rundown for those that don't know you.
Just over 11 years. I'm not sorry. We've been together for just over 11 years.
Yes.
We met in high school. So high school sweethearts, and dated for 5 years, then got married.
Nice.
Yes.
And then now we've been married for just over 6 years, so over almost 11 total.
Wow.
And
You actually threw me for a loop. I'm like,
I know.
wait, they've been married 11 years? This isn't a young married couple. They're
Yeah.
veterans.
That would have been crazy.
yeah. So that, and then we waited 5 years before we started trying. Kat's like a super big planner.
Yes.
So she was like, I have a plan of when we're going to start trying, when we're going to conceive so that they can get into school at this time and not be pregnant over the summer and blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
Yes, that was the biggest thing. Didn't want to be pregnant over summer. Didn't want them to be late into school. But that's just me being particular.
But you were open to whatever God did.
Yeah, whatever the Lord wants.
But, you know, when you fast and pray for long enough, he gives you what you want.
Stars of your heart.
Okay, so since you're the planner, are you a planner as well? Or how do you guys balance that when it comes to...
I enjoy having a plan, but I'm not like, I kind of worry about the now more.
Okay.
So it balances out because I know she's thinking about the future. I'm thinking about today. So
Okay.
we balance each other out.
All right.
Although I know today and every day too, but
Wow, now you're trying to sound like you're God.
no. I'm
No,
over
I know.
our calendar. That's what I'm
Like,
saying.
well, of course I know today because I planned it 3 months ago. So, yes, we knew what was happening today.
Yeah.
That's so funny. We're a little bit of both. So, like, I definitely like a plan. I'm not a leaper. He definitely is more the leaper. But what's funny is he likes to leap only in places that he likes his structure, too. Like, when it comes to certain things, like he wants to eat the same meals every day. He wants to, it's like funny. It's like he doesn't like change. But yeah, it's funny.
I suddenly feel oppression
I
against
know. No pressure. But it could be hard when like one is and one isn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was
Yeah.
just curious.
Go
Yeah.
back to the high school days. So tell us this, like, what was it that had you fall in love with each other? Like, what was it about each other? You were like, dang, dude, like, I like that.
Oh.
Well,
Well, I'll start because I did not like Mitchell. And I made it very clear to him that I didn't.
Wait, at all as a person or just like
No,
that way?
as a person, but I would. no, wait. As a person, I
how
liked
do you
him.
not like Mitchell?
No,
Like, I
as
love
a
this.
person, I liked him.
Oh,
but
okay.
I didn't like his looks. I was like goth back in the day, so like he was like
Really?
a Christian preppy boy at a Christian school.
You were goth?
Yeah, like with the straight hair and everything.
Can we
listen
get
to like
photos of
metal
that?
music. Just like scroll really far back on her
Yeah.
Facebook. Now everybody's watching. Is gonna
He
be like,
just-
you have to find her Facebook.
He
we
wasn't
edit
my
a picture
style.
Take me a picture of this pod, please.
It's all still there.
Hey, so but you didn't like the preppy boy. Apparently, Mitch loved the golf girl.
Yes, that's what's crazy.
Oh man.
Um,
Well, what I loved, I mean, I thought she was beautiful, of course, but
Aw.
I love that she really cared a lot about people. And, you know, I felt like a calling into ministry, and that's what we do, you know.
Yeah.
We've been in ministry for 7 years. And so, you know, looking towards my future, knowing that's what I'm, you know, passionate about, just thinking about being with somebody who has like that heart for people or shepherd people, to see the little guy, like, and that was always her, like in our interactions when I'd see her around, she was always like just taking care of those around her. And so that to me like spoke volumes. And I was like, okay, Lord, these are like the things I'm looking for in a future wife. Like,
Wow.
show me if she has them. And then boom, 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 she had all of them. So I was like, all right, God, thanks for the green light. And here we are.
But
She wore all black and
Yes,
costumes. She's all
exactly.
about costumes. He's like, I
Also-
like this girl.
1 week into our relationship, Mitchell's like, yeah, so my first girlfriend's also going to be my wife. And I'm like, well, I'm your girlfriend, so you're asking me to marry you? I just thought that was like a Christian thing to do. He was the first like Christian guy I had dated. So
Yeah.
it was all new to me.
I was raised in a Christian household, like grew up in the church, and Kat found the Lord like in high school. So definitely very different backgrounds. She was learning a lot at the time that like we were getting to know each other.
Yeah.
And so
So now I got to know something because my mind's going 100 miles an hour.
Squirrel.
Yeah, squirrel. You know what I mean? Like, you're praying, God, I want to go into ministry. Give me a girl to go to ministry. She's just found the Lord
Like a year before.
and like doesn't even know. Like, wait, do normal people ask me to marry them a week into this? Is that normal? Like, I don't know. What was your thought of like, okay, I know he's going to ministry.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you have reservations, or you're like, yeah, I'm all in. I don't care. Like, what was that?
I didn't have any reservations. I didn't really know what that entailed.
well, at the time, I had a calling in my life in ministry. So what I was looking for was something that, a fellow, a spouse
Yeah,
in ministry
co-laborer.
she
Yeah,
would
for
have.
sure.
But at the time, I was kind of like not really like paying attention to my calling. Like I was planning on being a firefighter at the time.
Really?
And so like that's, she knew that plan. And so,
Yeah.
so that might bring some clarity.
But I also didn't want to be a firefighter because I didn't want him to like burn in a building or
He
something.
hoodwinked her with the ministry. He's like, I want to be a firefighter. Not really.
But I knew you were called into ministry, but I didn't know what that really looked like. So it was all new to me. I didn't have really any questions with that.
I didn't really know what that looked like either at the time.
Okay, so then give us a little bit. How did that switch? Because we got to serve alongside of you. So like I've seen you in ministry, and Kat, just your anointing and calling in ministry and how you do it. So there had to have been this moment where God just did something really crazy in your world. Share that a little bit, because I've actually never heard this part of the story.
Yeah. My second youth camp, so youth camp in 2012, was when the Lord called me into ministry. So I had only known him for a year and a half at that point.
Wow.
So that's when I feel like everything kind of changed. I got way more involved within the church. We got really close with different people within the church that were in leadership that just kind of mentored me and also Mitchell as well. And I feel like everything kind of slowly came together. He was at the Spring Hill location. I was at the Wested Chapel. So we were at different churches, but the same church. But we did everything together, it felt like. So we were just figuring it out as we went, I guess.
Yeah.
Hey,
Figuring it out.
that second camp that she went up because she was called to ministry, Mitch was like, she is the one. Now will you marry me? Okay, so you have a little one.
Yes. So fast forward. Here we
Yes.
are. We're now married. We found the one. We're married, and God blesses you with a beautiful, beautiful little girl. And so, like, take us on that ride. How was that journey transitioning from just the two of you to now being 3, almost 4, which is about to change as well?
Hey, let's go.
I'm like 2 months away from that.
Really?
It's crazy.
Goodness. Oh
Yes.
my
Third
goodness.
trimester.
Yeah. So transition, how did that change impact your relationship? How did you step into that?
Why don't you start?
Okay. Well, Mitchell said I'm a planner. So truly every year I would just say, well, we're like 4 years away from having a baby, 3 years away from having a baby. So like, I feel like our minds were prepared. It was a little weird being like, oh, next year we have to start trying. But I felt completely ready, and Mitchell did too. I've always wanted to be a young mom and have a lot of kids. I mean, 4 kids, is that a lot? I don't know.
She comes from a family of 7
I have
sisters.
7 sisters, so like I
She's
wanted.
like 4.
I used to want 8 kids, but it's
I was like, absolutely not. We gotta meet in the middle.
He's like, I don't know what we're planning for, but not that.
but yeah, we just kept talking about it, and I feel like we just felt ready, and the Lord blessed us, and on the first try, everything just went as planned.
She's like, that's the way I planned it.
And for me, like, before we got married, obviously, once you're engaged and going through premarital counseling, you're supposed to talk about these kinds of things. And so, like, I knew going in, she wants 4 kids and she wants to have them start trying 5 years in. And so I kind of just, like, came to terms with it, like, even before we got married, that this is what's going to happen. And then, of course, as she's reminding us every anniversary, only 4 years away, 3 years away, next year, so it just kind of, like, it wasn't like a shock, like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, we're like, this is too soon. Like, I had just kind of come to terms with it at that point, and I had a peace about it. I wasn't like, I'm being forced to do this.
We planned
Like,
it
twice
together.
being accused, We planned it together, and so
Like, I've come to terms.
we agreed on it, and I don't know. I just feel like the Lord just gave us peace about it.
I wonder if that's like a normal. Do people plan
Normal or
year?
the average? Like, yeah, I don't know the average. I do think it's important that you guys talk and communicate so much, though,
Yeah.
because I do think, especially in the seats that we sit in often, that's not what we on the average that we see. A lot of couples don't discuss it. They don't even communicate, what their expectations are prior to marriage sometimes. And you go in with 2 totally different expectations.
Yeah.
One wants a big family, one doesn't want a family. One wants to raise their kids like this, one doesn't. And so I think it's so beautiful that you guys decided very early on, these are going to be conversations that are worth having.
Yeah.
Because a lot of couples don't put value or weight
Did we
in those
plan like that?
conversations. I think we talked about it, but we definitely didn't plan
Well,
like that. I
that's
think, yeah.
part of the reason I feel like that we came up with the 5-year mark.
Yeah.
Because we felt like that was a good enough time for us to learn each other.
Amen.
As like a
Yes.
young married couple, even though we had been dating for 5 years, once you get married, it's totally different. Like, everybody who's married can say that. Like, once everything changes, and so us being able to navigate married life, learn things, figure out how to deal with conflict, disagreement, fight well, like all that kind of stuff. And once we hit 5 years, we expected we should have all that stuff, under control for the most part by then. And I think, for the most part we have. Of course, we still get disagreements and stuff.
Yeah, of
but,
course.
we're not just getting married and then, oh my gosh, now I have to learn how to be parents too on top of everything else.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like the thought process behind waiting along 5 years before having kids.
I love that you said everything, of course, changed when we got married. I don't think a lot of couples expect that. I really don't, especially when we sit with so many couples in that pre-counseling room and they don't want to talk about disagreements. They don't want to talk about, fighting fair and communication because they're everything's great and they see through rainbow tinted glasses. And so I think it's really big that you said, of course things change, what is there anything that you would say that if a person's watching, this was one of the biggest things that kind of changed for us that was maybe hard, even, maybe way before you got
Sex. They started having sex.
well, hopefully, yeah.
They're like, other than that,
Yeah, anything that kind of just shifted or changed that you were like, yeah, this was something that we had to come to grips with. We definitely had things that changed because we were walking through a not super healthy marriage at the beginning, which is part of our story. But yeah, I was just curious for the person that's watching it thinking, man, what should we kind of be prepared for to change as we get married and then even as we become parents,
Yeah. Well, I feel like some of it is just like simple little stuff like living together and handling things differently. I'm like super particular and organized, which is funny because she's the planner, but like she's also like messy planner. like she knows where things are, but it's a mess.
hey, this is a to be continued conversation in the car. Like, messy planner?
It's okay.
She'll say that herself.
No, I'm not a messy planner, but I'm a messy person. I will say I'm like messy in general, but planning, I feel like I'm not a messy planner.
Okay, I'm sorry. But I'm very particular. Like,
Very.
super like OCD, like things have to be done a certain way, and I can't like wrap my mind around like why somebody wouldn't do it that way.
Why someone wouldn't put a dish in the dishwasher that way, or put the spoon in a certain place in the dishwasher. I can't load the dishwasher, but it's okay.
So
He
like
does the
all of
dishes.
those like little things,
Wait. Put a spoon in a certain place?
it like has to go on. I do it a certain way. I'll just say that.
So he does the dishes, which is totally fine. But I feel like that was something we had to figure out, like, what were going to be our responsibilities. Like, Mitchell didn't know anything about finances going into marriage, and I did. So I was like, I guess I'm going to be over finances.
In our upbringing, like my parents, you know, we didn't have a lot of money, and so their thought process was, I don't want the kids to be like worried about anything, so we're just not going to talk about money. You'll never know.
Yep.
And then on her side of things, like she knew exactly what her parents made and when their bills were due and what bills were due and all that kind of stuff.
When we couldn't afford the house, when we went into foreclosure, like all those things, like I knew it all. But my dad walked me through all of that. He showed me how to like write checks and pay bills. So he was very hands-on with that. So it was very different approach.
So I came into marriage like not knowing how to do anything financially and learning a lot from her.
Wow.
And so like that's a clear responsibility that she should take care of.
Hey, Mitch is like, I got the dishwasher. You handle the finances.
He truly does all of the cleaning.
Yeah.
Still to this day.
Yes.
Wow, that's awesome.
I love that though, because it's pulling on your partner's strengths, right? Instead of
Yes.
just saying, well, this is what I've always seen and this is what it has to be done. And we all come in with like our own baggage and expectations. We did, you know, the gender roles were so defined, especially in our generation. We're, you know, quite a bit older than y'all. So it's like, you know, these gender roles that you can, they don't have to be that way. Like, what are your strengths? What has God gifted you with?
Some of them should be, though.
Maybe not though,
No,
but some maybe.
probably some should.
Like, I think maybe you could load the dishwasher. That would be great. And I don't care how you do it.
Spoons are on the right side.
Mitch, are you
Water
giving?
doesn't get to it the same way if it's turned in, you know?
I'm gonna need a tutorial, please, on how to load the dishwasher. Okay, so let's do this. So you came from a larger family. Mitch, I know you got a sister. You came from a larger family. So let's go into the family aspect of things. You have a baby. Did you see, like, were there things that you just knew because you were part of a larger family? Mitch, did you pull on those strings together? Did you do Lamaze class and you just pulled this thing together? Like, what did that look like introducing this new little human being into your relationship?
Yeah, I mean, Mitch only has one sister, and
And I had 10 cousins and we're all around the same age. So, like, there were no babies, like,
Wow.
with me growing up. Like, and when there were babies, I was, like, 5, 6, 7. So, you know, I'm not worried about learning how to take care of a baby. So I definitely pulled on her wisdom and knowledge from that. Well, why don't you just go into how many nieces and nephews you have?
I have 7 sisters, so lots of children.
Okay.
I have 14 nieces and nephews now.
She's the second youngest.
Second youngest. So I was always like the designated babysitter of like all of the nieces and nephews. So yeah, I just have a lot of experience. And then when I started serving at the church, I immediately got plugged into the nursery because I was like, I know how to take care of babies. So I've just always been around kids. So I feel like Mitch kind of leaned on me in that way, but he's also just like a naturally great dad, which I feel like not a lot of people feel. I feel like everyone's going to think like I might not be like that good. Like I don't know how to handle a baby. He never changed a diaper until we had Mirabelle. So he was
I
literally
said he's never changed a diaper.
No, I was
no.
like, wait, still?
I'm
Okay.
like, dude.
I'm the designated diaper changer.
okay.
I've become the master. But the only time I had tried changing a diaper was one of her nephews, and it went terribly. And
Yeah.
I'm like, Kat, help!
But he was like 2 years old and crazy, so it was
Yeah.
not a best first experience.
No.
Were
But
you excited? Like, I know, excited to have your own child, but were there nerves in you of this little human coming, and am I ready? Am I prepared?
There-
Or were you jacked?
so it's kind of weird because there were nerves, but I wasn't ever like smacked with this, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a dad, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I knew that I was worried that I wouldn't know what to do a lot of the times, but I felt very at peace because I knew that Kat did. And because I know how we operate in our relationship, that like we're a team and I can lean on her and she's going to show me.
Oh.
And so I I never felt like that panic of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a dad. I don't know what I'm doing, because I knew I could just rely on her and apply myself and be eager to learn, which I was. I was eager to learn from her. And now, she went away for a week on a work trip, and I watched Mirabelle by myself. So
That's
it
amazing.
was,
that's like the badge of honor for every dad. Right?
yes,
I did
I
it.
did it.
I
She
did it.
didn't die.
1 week
No
away.
injuries.
No injuries. I remember we talk about this a lot together.
Yeah.
And Denette always brings it up because I was jacked. And I don't know why, but I just was like, I'm gonna kill this dad thing. I love it. I can do it.
He was real excited.
Give me a baby. Like, let's do it. It's a boy. I'm in. And Denette always talks about us leaving the hospital and them, we're at our
Yeah.
car and then just handing us a human. Like, okay. And here was a 19 and 20 or
Well, I was 21.
21
yeah,
and
at the time.
22-year-old looking at each other going,
We didn't have the plan of 5 years. That's why it didn't work that way.
we're like, we're horny. Let's have a baby. No. It was a little more play than that. But
Kind of.
but here we are at 22, 21, and they hand us this human, and we're like, oh, wait.
Yeah.
We're going home to raise this.
I remember them testing the car seat and going, okay, you're good. And I'm thinking, like, I had to do more classes to get a driver's license, and you just handed me this human.
That's the qualifications of a parent.
I know. And
Car
I'm
seat's
like,
in.
how do you know that I'm not, like, crazy? Like, it was so much weight, but it's so beautiful that you guys played off each other's strengths.
Mm-hmm.
Now, being the planner, I don't know that for me as a mom, I definitely am somewhat a planner, but for me, there was a lot of fear, like when he would like have reservations about parenting, I felt myself like overstepping, like correcting, like make sure you do it this way or don't do it like that. Did you guys ever have to work through that dynamic at all, or was that kind of easy going for you guys?
I don't really think so.
Oh, that's
Honestly.
Yeah.
He found his own way to do things. Like, even with diapers, like, I know that's so small, but he's like, gotta have the next one under, and then I'm gonna put a wipe on top just in case anything leaks out. Like, he's so particular. I'm like, I don't do that. Like you can if you want to. So, I don't know. He's so particular with things. Like, I would show him the first time, and then he would kind of find something and make it his OCD self, I
Yeah.
guess.
Hey, they have to talk about it. They're like, she goes, is this another dishwasher thing? It is? Okay, we'll just let it go.
Let him do it. Whatever works.
But I think that's a key point.
Yeah.
Denette had a lot. She wasn't married to someone who was passionately seeking the Lord and probably didn't have the greatest people skills at the time and didn't love well, and I was very short fused. And so it probably created more fear on her to have that thing to overstep. And I would just say
Yeah.
for a lot that could be a potential thing when you don't have that kind of trust. It's really going, am I now overstepping? So it's truly a blessing that there's complete trust and two people passionately seeking the Lord and faithful, where you can go, yeah, let's trust and do this together. That just wasn't our story. And so there's a lot more, which then created tension amongst our relationship.
Right.
I'm like, leave me alone. I got this. It's
Yeah.
like a baby. You know what I mean?
I had to work through my own fears and like work through my own trust and be like, okay, if he doesn't do it just correctly, if he doesn't do it this way or that way. But I think it was that lack of trust that we were still working through. And so, there's probably going to be people watching on both ends of the spectrum where, one partner's very specific and the other one's not. And you know what, at the end of the day, the babies were still fed, they still slept, they were still changed. And so it was trying to learn to not make major things out of minor things that I think we had to work through those first few years for us.
Give me, because that made me think about a time. I need like a parenting fail.
Oh,
Not fun to think about. I'll tell you mine just so you can do with it.
Okay. Give us time to think. Well,
Yeah.
Yes. Well,
no pressure.
we were getting ready to leave one time when Dylan and I were playing.
Oh, goodness.
Dylan was little tiny kid. He was on the couch.
He had
and
just
she's-
learned to start walking.
And my kids, they like to wrestle really early, like 3 months. They love to wrestle. You know what I mean? So he and I were just wrestling on the couch, and she's like, I need you to be careful. Please make sure he doesn't fall off. Oh, he's good. I got this. Like, he's good. Well, he didn't. He rolled off and fell, and he face planted on the floor. And when he did, he split his little lip, right? Yeah, it was a sweet little thing. He starts screaming.
Thank you for your response.
Mitch is like, so he starts bleeding. Well, I'm like, oh crap, like fail here. She told me not to let him roll off the couch, and he rolled off the couch. Oh gosh. So I ran to the bathroom, and I just thought, let me just get water and wash the blood. Well, when you mix water and blood, it goes crazy. So by the time she gets out of our bathroom to where he and I are at in the other bed, it looks like a crime scene. I mean,
It was just the littlest split lip, but there was like blood.
I'm like yelling, I promise it's not this bad. You know what I
And we were
mean?
supposed to be getting ready for date night. That's why he
Oh my
was watching
goodness.
it.
No,
Date
that
night
must have
was
been an
ruined.
interesting
It was
date night.
like, yeah, it wasn't good.
That was not the night Nathan was conceived. So things like that, where just you got this little human. Is there something you look back on and go, oh, this was one that we just oofed?
Oh my goodness.
Well, I'm thinking about the time when you were taking a nap at your mom's.
Oh my gosh.
You can talk about that.
He put her on
But
blast.
it wasn't as bad as yours. No, I had just gotten back from this week-long conference, and it was my first day back. I was at my mom's to pick up Mirabelle, but she was napping, and I was like, oh, I'll just nap with her. I'm exhausted. So I go to sleep, and I was very tired that I didn't hear her wake up. And my mom's bed is super high off the ground. So she doesn't, at that time, she didn't really know how to get down. Now
And
she's a pro.
tile, like, is it-
Yeah, she has a tile, like all tile throughout her house. So all I heard was like a thump. And then I woke up, looked around, and there was no Mirabelle on the bed. But when I looked down, she was like on a bunch of pillows because we had pillows all around the bed. She like flipped over with the pillows and was just on the ground looking at me. And she then started crying because she was like scared, but she didn't get hurt, thankfully.
That's awesome.
I felt so bad that even happened.
Oh, I remember
Yeah.
feeling and like the biggest failure. Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. And it it just speaks to, I think, how tough God makes children. God really
Yeah,
does.
he
They go
does.
through a lot. They just, they're good.
And
But
you're always going to have moments where no matter how much of a planner you are, how much you try to get everything in line, and you're just not perfect. And so there's
Yeah.
going to be things that come up in early childhood and teenhood and everything that you're going to experience that is going to be tricky. And so just having grace to go, okay,
I think she
I
planned
can-
perfect. Mirabelle took a pillow with her.
oh no, that is pretty
I was
perfect.
I don't know how that
like
happened.
a genius.
Oh, Lord.
She's like, of course she didn't get hurt because I had pillows.
Hey, that's exactly what I would have followed up with. Playing that perfect.
That's amazing.
Give
That
us
is
like
amazing.
the biggest thing about each other as young parents. You were like, I didn't know my spouse would be this good at this, and it really blessed my heart to see them love or do the way they did. That was something that you went, wow. 'Cause I think it'd be an encouragement, because I think for many young parents, we look at all the things that we don't do properly, or the things that we don't get right, or the things that we don't know, that we don't celebrate the things that we do. And we definitely don't celebrate in our partner strengths that they have.
Yeah.
So what's a strength that you just saw, like, this was out of the box that I never saw it coming?
Do you want to go first?
Sure. I mean, I knew like going in that Kat would be like an incredible mom because of like seeing her with her nieces and nephews, her experience with children, the fact that she's such a planner. Like, I expected that part of it. But to see it in action, like the way that she sacrifices so much for
Aw.
Mirabelle, like
Yeah.
the times that she just doesn't get sleep and it is what it is, or the times that like she'd be taking care of Mirabelle and like making sure she has her food and she's not like worrying about eating or anything, like she's just like so like sacrificial, and like you don't really think about that when you're like before you have kids, until you're like in it and you see, and I'm like, wow, she would literally like put everything on the line for like this little baby. And like that was just like super cool to see. And then like made me like feel like I have to step up and make sure that when she's sacrificing, I'm like taking care of her,
That's beautiful. Yeah.
because like dinner time, I'm like, all right, I'm ready to eat, and like she's feeding Mirabelle, and then I'm like, oh wow, like maybe I can feed Mirabelle so she can eat, because she's doing a lot more probably than I am. So yeah, she's just above and beyond in that area.
Wow.
Man, I just
Never hesitates.
I want to commend you, because I think you just said something that's bigger than probably you even realize. Because I can't ever remember a time where I thought, oh, maybe I should do this to selfishly serve her so that she can. Man, I think it's the epitome of selflessness. and serving a spouse in this season,
Yeah.
that it's a big deal. Now, anyone that knows Mitch knows, like, that's who you are, man. You know, so part of it's like, of course you did that, Mitch. You know, but just if you were to take something away, you know, you're selfless in marriage, dying to self to serve a spouse for the betterment of your marriage. But even when children come, even taking that to another level, be able to go, wow, the two of us are a team. How can I serve this team well so that we all thrive?
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that was a huge point, man. And I commend you for walking that out, because that's a big deal that I know I didn't. And I don't know if that's in the forethought of most men or in women. I mean, it's just really big deal, man. I honor you for that. It's a big deal.
Thank you. And I mean, like, I'm not the one breastfeeding the baby. I'm not the one getting up to do all that stuff. So it's like,
Yeah, I
if
didn't think
she's
you were.
pouring out so much, like, I got to make up somewhere. So I'll do all the cleaning. Like, don't touch anything. I'll do it all, you know?
Wow.
So, I don't know. It just seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But it weighs on her so much, motherhood, on any woman. I'm not just saying, like, her, but, like, any woman is pouring out so much for their babies. And so, like, as men, we can't just sit back and, like, enjoy what they're doing, and that we don't have to do as much. Like, we need to step up and find out where we can do more, where we can help out more, and just applying ourselves and not kind of just sitting back and taking the back seat, but finding out where we can be leading the charge too. So.
Yeah.
Love it, man.
Yeah. And there's so much more to parenting than just providing, right? And I think a lot of times a lot of men have the viewpoint, especially if they're in a one-income household, which isn't typical anymore anywhere. But if that is the case, I think a lot of men just think, well, I'm doing enough because I'm providing. But there's so much emotionally and spiritually that not only your spouse needs, but your children need. And so it's that constant communication of, you know, are you providing in these ways as well? So that's beautiful that you said that. So, yeah.
I didn't even really know love languages at the time,
Yeah.
but, you know, being the provider, because when we had Dylan, our first, it was, okay, God's calling me to stay home. Well, I wasn't even really walking with the Lord then.
Right. Yeah.
I was like, well, he didn't tell me that. you know, but immediately she became a stay-at-home mom.
Right. Yeah.
Well, you know, and part of it, I didn't die to self. It was all about self. Well, now she's staying at home. I'm out providing, making me think more about self. And it just created this cycle. And not knowing love languages at the time of how do I love my wife well during this season, I just let it take over me. And it really was part of the trauma of our first 8 years, you know, of just not dying to self, not knowing how to love my spouse, and then almost becoming bitter that I'm going and doing construction work all day, every day. You're at home playing with the kids. I mean, hello, can we both get in this thing?
Yeah.
You know, and then she goes away for 1 week and I realize, wow, parenting is way different than I thought.
It wasn't all watching Blue's Clues. It wasn't.
But there was a lot of Blue's Clues.
There was a lot of Blue's Clues. But
Miss Rachel.
yeah, that's so true. Okay, so what about Kat?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like you kind of got a glimpse of like how great of a dad Mitchell is and how selfless he is as well. I think something that took me by surprise, we were kind of talking about this actually last week. This is like totally like not as sweet and sentimental. I mean, it is, but he, before we had Maribel, was not a photo guy. Like, we would never take photos. We would always forget to take photos of big things and be like, oh, dang it, we went to a wedding and we didn't even take one photo. But since having Maribel, he has completely changed, which I love because I want to capture everything. But sometimes I'm with Maribel, I'm like, oh, I wish I took this. He's like, I already got a 5-minute video of it. And it's like every first thing, like her first hair washing at the hospital, he has it all. Like her first little bath, her first pediatrician appointment, like everything. And then he shows the whole world. Like, he shows everyone. I'm like, I look horrible in this video, but it is the first time she spat up on me. I don't know. Like, he truly has taken so many photos and videos, which I love because we love looking back on them. We get like all these memories, but we looking at the difference of Because on
We
the
looked into the
iPhone,
stats.
on the iPhone, it shows like how many pictures are of Kat, how many are of Mira, and for me, it was like over the 11 years we've been together, like 2,100, which I guess that's a lot. But with Mirabelle and her 1 year of life, it was like 3,500 pictures and videos, and I'm like, that's literally insane. But I love it. I was not expecting him to be that type of dad because my friend Sarah's more like that, like taking pictures and videos of everything. But I appreciate it because on like the flip side, I hear a lot of moms are like, I never get any pictures of like me and my baby versus like I always take pictures of Mitchell with Mira, but I have tons of them like her
That's so
first year of
sweet.
life. So any dads out there, like take pictures of like moms and their babies because that was like that to me was like the sweetest thing.
I mean, start small. The goal's not 3,500.
Not 35.
No
Hey,
comparison.
in 1 year, y'all can do the math on that, right? You know what that is, right?
What?
No, why don't you do it for us? Because I
Yeah.
can't do math that fast.
That's like 10 a day.
That's like nothing.
10 pick.
Wait, 10 a day? That's not too bad.
Well, it was like 180 a year of like me, like for the last 11 years. So 3,500 in 1 year is kind of insane when we did the math in that
10
way.
a day,
That's
guys. Get on
amazing.
it.
10 a day.
Hey, fellas, let's do a week. Let's start with a week. There's some guys out there like, I can't do that. You know what I mean? I can't. But I think it's a big deal because I don't actually think about that. And a lot of our photos are me and the boys. And I think when you look back on that, I think it's a great, kind of an exercise for guys to really take the lead because when we look back on it, a lot of our pictures are me holding the boys or me,
It's
right?
so true. I remember actually asking him, "Can you start taking more pictures of me?" Because the baby album, like all the albums, it looks like you're a single dad. It's like I'm taking pictures of you and the boys all the time, and I'm like, I was there for all of these moments.
I was just behind the camera.
But it was because it was so important to me that I always was thinking about it. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
funny because I remember asking, "Okay, you have to start taking more pictures."
Oh, wow.
That's funny. That's so funny. Okay, so when you look at like this, like stats, it says like 67% of marriages actually see a decline after they've had a little one or after they've introduced a little one into the family, and there's a high number of families that actually tout having children as being one of the reasons their marriage like dissolved. And obviously your story is, sitting on the side of the couch. Of course, all of us have our own issues, but you guys have done so well. Like having like the dream start, right? With the planning and the being on the same page and having each other's back. But when you look at talking to another couple that's in your same season of life, what would you say to them? If you could say anything to yourself that would encourage yourself before you started this journey, what would you say to someone that might be watching that, could maybe just empower their spouse or empower their own heart to walk into that season well? I know that's a heavy question.
Yeah.
But-
Well, I feel like a big part of it is, like for some people, it's like once you have kids, like each other doesn't matter as much. It's like everything is for the kid. But that's not true. Like our first ministry is each other, and our second ministry is our kids. And so finding ways to maintain like each other being a priority. And obviously the way that looks shifts in a season where a baby needs milk like every 2 hours in the middle of the night, like there's things that adjust with that, but finding other ways to make sure that they know that they're still the priority. And I feel like we both like just knew that going in, that we have to make sure that we know each other's still the priority. I remember there was a moment where, and Kat's not like a super like she doesn't like cry a lot. She's not like a really like emotional like person. Like she expresses emotions, of course, but and even like through her pregnancy, she wasn't. Which I was kind of surprised because like everybody is, but she still maintained pretty even. But there was like one moment, like the week before she gave birth, that she like broke down crying to me and was saying like, I'm just really worried that you're gonna love Mirabelle more than me. And of course I reassured her, a lot of that was probably pregnancy hormones. But I just remember thinking, I need to make sure that like that fear is never like confirmed by anything that I do. That she can't say like, oh wow, yeah, Mirabelle, he does love Mirabelle more because of this, and that. And I feel like maybe like different marriages, maybe that's the struggle. Like those like insecurities or fears are confirmed because their spouse isn't like taking that into consideration and making their child their first priority, their first ministry.
So true.
And so one time I talked to somebody, like a mentor of mine, about that, and I was like, how can I like do that? Like, there's no time. Like, we can't leave the baby with anybody right now. This was like a couple weeks after she had given birth, and like I want to make her feel special, and all this stuff. I think Valentine's Day was coming up too, because Mirabelle was born February 7th, so like the 14th was a week away from that. Wow. And he just gave me some advice on like how to just do like simple little things. Like you don't have to bring her on some fancy expensive date. Like just do something simple, like a picnic in your living room or something. And so I remember Kat hadn't showered in a while because
She wasn't in the plan.
Sorry, I'm like exposing everything.
She hadn't planned it.
It had been like a couple days just because of like how invested you are those first few days, first week with your baby. And so I was like, okay, go shower, take as long as you want, like pamper yourself. I'll watch Mirabelle and like hold her during her nap. And so she goes, and I'm like, okay, I have at least like an hour to like set up some spontaneous like living room picnic. And so I have Mirabelle in one arm, and with one hand I'm like moving around furniture, like getting a blanket out. Like I did all this stuff to set up like a dining experience with candles and stuff in the living room. And so then I put Mirabelle down for like the rest of her nap, and then I wanted it to be so that when Kat came out of her shower and like ready to go, like I put an outfit on the bed for her, like with a note like, put this on, like, get ready for like your great experience tonight or something. I don't know what I said. And so then she came out to that setup. And I did all with one hand. But anyways, but this is just an example of like how I wanted to do a simple yet dramatic gesture to show like you are still my priority, and I'm gonna do whatever it takes to like love on you and show you how much that I love you. And she's done things like that for me. I've done things like that for her since then. But I feel like early on, like learning that, like I'm really glad that she was vulnerable in that moment and opened up to me about that, because then I was able to think about and plan about how I'm going to make sure that it doesn't stay that way. And then going and seeking counsel from people that you trust, and listening to what they're saying and applying it, and not feeling like I have to have it all together. I have to know what to do myself, because like we don't.
Right.
We've never had a kid before, so you have to get advice from people and then do what they say. And so I'm really thankful that she was vulnerable enough to communicate that to me, and then I had somebody in my life I could go to and be vulnerable with who could give me that advice. And so like that's, I feel like, just a simple thing, but it goes a long way.
No, it's so good, because those fears are they're so true. They're so validated. And, I think there is that fear for a lot of couples. I know in our relationship, I think it was probably vice versa. I think I got so focused on our kids because of the unhealth in our marriage in that season, that I know, had moments where he felt like he was probably less loved than the boys. And so we had to work through that. But it's like that different love, right? It's not more or less. It's like you love them totally different, because God gives you a different kind of love for those babies than this spouse that we're, going to have the rest of our life with, and that we get the pleasure of raising these beautiful kids alongside,
It's like the 2,100 pictures and the 3,500 pictures. It's like different. I guess that's not one of the metrics on whether you do or not.
Yeah, that might not be a good
Yeah.
That came to mind when you were saying that.
He's like affirmed everything. Well, I'll just tell you, so you said two key things that, man, I just hope everyone hears, and hope you keep shouting from the mountaintop. The intentionality that you took in that season, when it's easier to pull back and rest, you pushed forward and drove. Big deal.
Yeah.
And vulnerable communication. I mean, it's just, we constantly say it over and over. Communication and coaches, communication and coaches. If every relationship will get communication and coaches down, man, it would save you so many problems. So to hear that in that season of new, that was two of the things you did, man, just kudos to you. You know, it's like, I've always said you're like an old man in a young kid's body, always like an old soul. I've always said that to you and about you. So I'm like, of course he knew that. Dang it.
Well, I didn't even know that it was that, like, that you've communicated that before.
Oh yeah, I have.
But
Maybe it's just about you. I never said it to you.
it's beautiful though that you guys are doing it so well, because now you're about to step into another new season.
Ooh.
With another little one. And I don't know about you, but I know when we were about to have our second, I was so terrified. And talking about those vulnerable emotions, like I shared with him openly, I was like, there's no way I'm going to love this baby as much as I love Dylan. Because I couldn't imagine God allowing me to like be able to multiply that love. And it was kind of almost that same fear that he had. I'd love these boys more, but it was like, I would love, the baby that I already have more than the one that's growing inside my womb. And so I don't know, it was just one thing that I really had to struggle with. And I even struggled that, will Dylan be happy that he's an older brother? Like he didn't ask for this. Like, it's all of those things, because it was another expansion, you guys are about to expand again, like your family in a different way.
I'm like, I think Dylan's like 14 months old. I don't think he's worried about it.
I brought home, and he was like such a man's man. So you have to picture this. I brought home a baby doll because I wanted to start prepping him. And so we would feed the baby, and he's like, why did you bring... Did she do that?
Yes.
Really?
It worked so well, too, because we were like, when he would take a nap, we'd feed the baby, and he was like...
She's got my boys in here playing.
He's like,
with
why
baby
was my boy playing? I'm like, oh my
What are y'all
gosh.
doing right
I'm like, you'll be okay. You'll be fine.
Are you kidding me?
But yeah, so some of those fears, I don't know if you guys are working through some of those too as you start.
Yes, and even outside of just fears, but figuring out like changing our language. Like we're having another girl, and we're like, she's the sweetest girl in the world. I'm like, well, we can't really say that because we're gonna have two girls. So like we could say she's like a sweet girl, but like,
one of the sweetest.
She's one of the
but just trying to figure out like language too, to make sure that like they both feel loved, like equally loved. Like we don't love one more than the other.
Which I'm still figuring out, like, how.
How is that possible? I know.
So many people say that it just happens. Like,
Yeah,
you
it
think
does.
that until, like, they're born, and then you're like, okay, like, I love them equally. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, what's so funny, like in our scenario, our oldest, Dylan and Nathan, though 19 months apart, were vastly different
From the moment
in
they were
personality
born.
and emotion. And so what you do is it's this multiplying of love going, oh my gosh, it's not, I don't love either one of you more than the other. I love you both the same. And for completely different reasons. We live in the same house, same rules, same everything.
Yeah.
But y'all are like two completely different humans. And even to this day, they are two completely different humans. You know what I mean? But it's like from that young age, you
Yeah.
just learn, like, I didn't know. And I think that's, it's a gift of God to be able to give you that kind of love that just abounds. You realize, oh my gosh, I get to steward these two gifts that God gave me.
Yeah.
And now the ability to love them and steward them well. And what's the biggest, like, exciting thing of two children? Well, it's 2 of 4. They're like, man, we're only halfway there.
Well, I'm excited to see Mirabelle be a big sister.
Yes.
Because she really is so sweet. She's the sweetest.
She's the sweetest.
But,
She really is.
She, like, I always call her a sweet Mirabelle or a sweet baby girl. Like, that's just, sweet is somewhere in how I refer to her. And, like, when she is, it's kind of funny you brought the whole baby doll thing up
Yes.
because Kat came up with that idea. And it was great, but in the beginning,
We were
she
worried.
would, like, we'd be like, rock the baby or give the baby kisses, and she'd be like, and like smile and then like throw
Throw
it.
the baby.
Or like hit it against it. And I'm like, no, don't beat the baby. Like, gentle.
Or the moment we would feed the baby a bottle, she would just like throw the baby and take the bottle herself. And we're like, okay, we have to share the bottle.
Yeah.
But we were concerned just for like that first month. But she's so sweet now with the baby. So
Yeah. And like Kat, like we have friends that have other like littles too, and so Kat will go and like hang out with our friend Sarah like during the day, and Mirabelle's playing with their kid Caden, and so like seeing how she interacts with other babies is truly just so sweet. Like she wants to play with them so bad. She's a little aggressive sometimes, but like she truly just like enjoys and it is like giggling and laughing just being around other babies. And so I'm excited to see her do that with Malin, which is the baby's name.
Yes,
Malin.
baby Malin.
Oh,
Denette made it very clear in the beginning, like, I'm a stay-at-home mom. You worked. What, because when you have 2 full-time jobs, right, you have to put some real safeguards to steward a family well and spend quality time. And what were some things or some practical applications that y'all put in place to really make sure the family stayed the main thing?
Yeah, I feel like that started before we had Mirabelle. We had to start looking at things that we were doing. We're like, okay, what are we doing on a consistent basis that we probably have to let go of, that we don't need to do before Mirabelle comes? So like, I feel like those first 9 months we were kind of taking things out. We're like, okay, we don't need to do this. We don't need to hang out with these people every week. Like maybe once a month or every other week. We were just kind of slowly stripping things back to where like our schedule wasn't so packed in the evenings, because we knew that's going to be our only time as a family, getting back from work at like 5:30 or 6 after picking up Mirabelle from my mom's. So we had to really like figure those things out, and also boundaries with work. Like being in ministry, sometimes you're just always on, always available, especially with dealing with volunteers. Like they just, or students, they'll text you whenever they want. But we were kind of clear with everyone, like, hey, we won't be responding after these hours. Or I was very clear.
I had to learn. She had to teach me.
It's very easy for me. I'm like, I'm off during this time, unless it's like some crazy emergency, which it never was. I'm like, I'll respond in the morning, like when I go back into the office. But I really did have to put that aside, because I would normally just respond whenever. But I was like, I can't do that when we're wanting to spend family time together, when we're trying to have a day off together. Like being in ministry, it's just, we really had to put up those boundaries. Mitchell, it took him a little longer to do that.
Which is why we said we're going to start practicing this like now.
Yes.
Before we have a baby. So by the time we have the baby, you'll be ready.
that's such good advice, because I don't think a lot of couples do that either. It's such good advice. And I think drawing boundaries, not only with your work, but even your family, can be kind of tricky. You know, we could talk about like what we want our family life to look like, what we want our family culture to look like, and all of those things. But then if we don't put the boundaries up to actually have the time to create those, we're not going to succeed, right? And so I think that's beautiful that even before, you know, that's such good advice.
Yeah.
Yes.
That way for
Really
the other
good
people,
advice.
it's not like cold turkey. Like,
Yeah.
just, all right, we have the baby now, like everything's changed. It's like, wait, what? Like, they're not used to that. So to like slowly get them used to it too.
Yeah.
I think it worked both ways.
Yeah.
That was
and-
always the struggle for Denette. She, always on full time.
No, I'm
11
more
o'clock
the,
at night,
I'm
taking
more the
phone calls.
introvert. I shut it down.
Yeah.
Denette had to keep reminding me, hey, this is our family day.
We're done. Yeah.
You know,
We're done.
so
Yeah.
it's great to hear, and I
Yeah.
really coach that a lot,
Mm-hmm.
of putting boundaries and keeping the main thing, that priority of God, spouse, family before everything else, and
Yeah.
not letting other things dilute that. So
Yeah.
For
very,
me,
very good to hear.
it was kind of hard mentality because I'm so like others focused sometimes that I would like my big thing is discipleship, and so I'm like mentoring people, like always meeting with people and whatnot. And so these people have needs, and I'm like, if I'm not like meeting with them, or how they're suffering, but I have to remind myself that the bigger need is my family, the bigger need is my baby, and if they need, then they could do a lunch. Like we can do lunch during my work day, and if it can't work during then we have to wait until the next lunch that's available. That way, not all my evenings are being packed, and that was an adjustment for me, like just mentally. So like for any other ministers or just busy people out there, like just remind yourself of what's more important, what's most important. That I don't want this little girl to grow up without a present father because he's putting out fires in everybody else's life. Like,
Yeah.
she'll know that her life is a priority. And so that was a big mindset shift that Kat really helped me understand, because these were the kinds of things when we're starting to put those boundaries in place and I'm pushing back, like, no, but what about this? And what about this person? They need this. And then I'm, and she really helped me
Yeah.
get my mind there. And so
There it is.
it was
We
a
actually
process.
added an appointment on his calendar for a while because it was hard for him to have those boundaries set. And so he actually put down a family appointment time so that if anyone contacted him, unless it was, like you said, an emergency, and it hardly ever was, he would say, I'm so sorry, I already have an appointment. And he did. And his appointment was his family. And so we would put certain days on the week so that we knew we at least had that amount of time scheduled throughout the week to be intentional and be totally devoted with putting love into those 3 beautiful boys,
And luckily, I had an assistant who didn't play. That a family appointment was the most important. She did not play with that.
Yeah.
Because I've always trying to shift it. Oh, just slide it an hour. Nope, we ain't sliding nothing. So.
Nope.
Hey, listen, you two, thank you.
Yes.
It's been super special. It means the world. You would come and just hang out and let us into your world as you're having babies and the newness of that and the vulnerability and the honesty and the transparency. It's a big deal. So we truly honor and thank you for that.
Yeah.
Look forward to it. Listen, balancing life in every different stage. We just want to encourage you, find someone to walk along life with you so that each and every one of us can get better each and every day. We love you guys.
Once again, we want to say thank you for tuning into this week's episode. Our true desire is this has brought value to you, your marriage, and or your family. The fact is, we can't do what we do without the support of you. By your liking, subscribing, and sharing this content, it reaches to those that are beyond our reach. Also, we would encourage you, check out our website, brokenforbetter.com. Become a monthly supporter, because by you supporting us, you too are making a difference in marriages.
We want to stay connected with you. So follow us on all the different social media platforms at Broken for Better, because on those different platforms, we're going to be giving tools, we're going to have events, all the different ways that we can stay connected, and we want to be connected.
One of the terms that we've adopted is if your marriage will visit a fitness center, you too can avoid a trauma center. We truly believe in marriage coaching. It doesn't matter what season of life you're in, whether your marriage is a 10 or whether your marriage is a 1. We offer marriage coaching to take it to another level.
Thank you for joining us.